Hey everyone, and welcome to Stitch Rick Creations. Welcome to our summer swap collab with Nulumbo Dolls, Brainstorm Creates, Bumble Crafty and Silver Griffin. If you remember, in December we did a Christmas collab, so this is our summer collab. These are some dolls that I bought off eBay and they are not in the best of nick, so let's have a quick look at what we've got. They're all a bit gooey and there's a lot of missing hands, but we'll see what we can do. This one's particularly sticky, but she has both hands. No hands here. This one has goopy hair and no hands again. This one has no left hand. This one has both hands and is in good nick. Also no left hand. Weird. And this one has both hands and an interesting outfit. I will always buy my dolls second hand unless I have something specifically I need them for. Now, let's prep the doll. I'm finding a left hand from my spare hands box and it's the same shade, great, and onto cutting this goopy hair. Always cut as close to the scalp as you can without cutting the plastic, makes removing the hair plugs a lot easier. Then time for the spa treatment in the cup of boiling water. We'll leave her there for a couple of minutes until her head is soft and squishy. Then using a towel we can pull it off with ease without breaking the neck peg. I scraped the plugs out with a small flathead screwdriver and then I'll pull them out with a needle nose plier. Just grab the hair and pull. But in this case her hair was so glued together inside, we just sliced it open and pulled out the big hole. Now that's all empty, we can smush the brain nugget up and bin it. Using 100% acetone we can remove her face. And we can clean her scalp up too. Like her winter cousin, she's going to be getting some pointy ears and some horns, so we're going to give her some armature wire, just working out where the spacing is with a pen, and then we can stab her in the head. I'm going to put her back in the boiling water to tighten up those hair plugs and it should shrink the plastic back. I'll pop the head back on the body because we're going to be doing sculpting and I don't want things to pop off when I try and put it on later on. A little bit of super glue in that cut there and we'll hold it together and let it stick. I'm using a 2-part epoxy to sculpt the ears, the horns and the hooves on this one. So it's just the usual epoxy sculpt, squish it onto that armature and pull it and push it until you get the shape that you want, and then repeat. Silicone tools are really good for getting into those little tiny crevices and making some really fine details. So my partner's a similar age to me and growing up we both had these Holly Hobby dolls, so I use that as inspiration. Using this dress pattern from DG Requiem, I am going to make her just the skirt for this and a little frilly summery top. It's a nice easy skirt for a starter, lots of long strips of fabric being cut, ruffled and sewn together in lots of different layers. I would recommend it. Just following the instructions as per the page and try not to cut my fingers off with the rotary tool. The bottom tee is very long, so I had to sew 2 pieces together, and to make sure they stay together I'm just putting some fray check along the edges. I'm just going to do a quick straight stitch through this, and then I'm going to pull it into a ruffle and line it up to the same size as the smaller tier at the top, and then stitch them together. I hope that makes sense. I think it made sense. Now that's all ruffled up, I can pin it to the shorter bit and ease those ruffles out so they're a little more even and well spread. Once I'm happy with the distribution, I can run it under the sewing machine and give it a bit of a press, and we get the first tier and second tier together. And then we just repeat for the bottom tier, which took a lot. Once they're all together, you can sew the back sides together and put the waistband on. I've done a straight stitch all the way around the bottom of the skirt, and I'm going to fray the hem. The stitch along the bottom stops it fraying further up the skirt and ruining the fabric completely. The caption says more sculpting, but a little bit of mutilation first. So we're using our pipe cutter. We're just going to slice into the back of the calf a little bit so we can bend her leg forward so she has got more animalistic legs. I did exactly the same on the winter fawn, which if that has a better clarity for you, go and have a check that out. I reckon I had to go 2/3 of the way through before it would bend properly. I didn't want to do it too hard all the way through at first in case I chopped the whole thing off, so just go nice and slow. To stop them folding up onto each other again, I'm going to wedge some foil in there, but first apparently we're going to have segue to the horns. To the horns! More epoxy sculpt! I'm just going to give them a good coverage and give them some shape. I'm smoothing out the imperfections as best as I can, but I'm going to go in with some sandpaper later on and smooth those out a bit more. More mutilation, let's cut those toes off. We don't need toes, no, we're going to have hooves. So away with those. Oh look, it's the tinfoil. Tinfoil I mentioned earlier, wedged into the back of those little cuts there. I'm going to super glue those in and tape them shut with a bit of masking tape. The glue and the masking tape will hold those nicely, and I don't need to cover them up with epoxy because I'm going to cover them up with something prettier later. So back to those notched toes. Going to smush some more epoxy sculpt on, and while I'm doing that I'm going to make sure that she can stand up still, so I'm going to stand her up and try and keep things on a level, which is why you can only really see the top of her head occasionally. The silicone mat's a lot better to use than the cutting mat because it has a little more give and forgiveness and doesn't stick to it as well. So I'm just smoothing that out with some water and a silicone tool, blending that in as much as I can, and then I can start on some details. Sorry that's out of shot, but yeah, more smoothing, more blending. Yeah, really need to try and work out on that. And yeah, just trying to get some definition with those toe shapes, and I'll be using my craft knife for that bit. I'll also be giving some details underneath the hoof as well. I've also added some extra bits onto those antlers to make them a bit more interesting. Right, we'll leave that to dry, cure, and we can move on to hair. I've got this bumper bag of mixed fibres from Tregever Fibres. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'm just trying to get enough of a similar colour that I think would be nice and complementary to the blue and the little red details of the skirt. And because I can't work in a straight line, I work in spirals, we're back onto the clothes. I'm going to make her a little summery top out of an old t-shirt. It's nice and clean, just marking out where it joins with an erasable pen, and then I'll cut it down to size. Pinking shears will make the fibres less likely to fray, and I'm just going to sew those together, sew the edges down, and put some Velcro into the back. I'm going to hand stitch all of this because my sewing machine likes to eat stretchy fabric. I've got this lacy elasticated stuff that I'm going to stitch to the back and where it will meet at the front, so it goes over her shoulders rather than like sleeves, if that makes sense. I stitch it in 4 places, 2 at the front and 2 at the back behind the armpits. Using my model paint, I'm going to try and colour match the ears as much as possible. I'm going to blend that in with some blushing later on. I'm also going to paint her antlers and her hooves with some dark brown gouache paint. Once that's dry, I can make a lighter colour and do a bit of dry brushing on to try and drag out some of those fine details. Like with our winter fawn, this young lady is going to have floofy legs. This is another one of those cushion covers I found with this weird curly fibre on it, and I'm just going to glue around the thighs, missing out the bits where it's articulated, and just trying to sort of stick it on with this Yoo-hoo glue, and hope and pray it sticks and works. I've got the seam on the inside because you're less likely to see that. See, I've got plenty of room around the top of the thigh for movement, and I'm just trimming it down as I go, sticking, waiting for it to dry, and here we go, 2 floofy legs. I'm going to trim down the bit of extra floof around her legs to give her a bit more shape, and then I'll blend that in with some pastels when that's all done. And now for my favourite bit, the face up. I've got a nice decent layer of Mr. Super Clear on, and I'm going to start off with some blushing. I'll give her some pink blush and some nice summery red lips, and then start sketching in those eyes. I want to give her a happy face. The winter fawn seemed a little more stoic and, I don't know, doughy-eyed, whereas I want this one to be a bit more cheerful. And we can't forget her little nose. Her little cousin friend had a little nose. She's going to have a little nose too. Just put some pink on the inside of those ears as well and blend that in a little bit more. I've got reference pictures of the winter fawn with me so I can see what similarities I want to try and keep, such as her big brown eyes and her little white freckles. I'll go back and forth building up the colours, lots of dark browns and some white hairs there to highlight it, and build up those colours and shades with layers of Mr. Super Clear in between when the colours stop taking. The Ever After High faces are quite flat, and especially under a harsh light, so I'm going to give her some definition with some shading around her nose. Using some watered down gouache paint, I'm painting on some freckles and dabbing off the excess with a cotton bud. These give the face a nice sort of watercolory feel. I've added a sprinkling to her chest and some definition of furriness to her belly as well, because she's wearing a little crop top. I'm just going to build up some blended furry bits as well with some pastels. As with our winter fawn, I'm going to put some fleecy material on the backs of her ears with some fast tack glue and the other side of that cushion that the fluffy stuff came from. Once the glue has dried, I can trim off the excess. Okay, so this time we're really doing the hair. I'm using a hot glue gun and these wonderful fibres. I've got a silicone tool on my finger to stop my fingers from burning, and I'm gluing on the hair and using the hot nozzle to reheat it and smooth it onto the head. I'm just going to cover the head, not quite haphazardly, but just making sure that there is plenty of hair to cover up the bald spots and there's no bits showing. Because these hairs come in tresses and their own tresses, whatever, they're locks. They come in locks, so you can stick them on, and as long as the base is stuck, you don't have to have the hard rocky texture on the top, and it will hold itself as a lock onto the hair, and you can style it as you go with the glue. An interesting little hairstyle we've got going on here. Let's cover up that bald spot. I thought it was a nice bit of definition to have the lighter colours at the back with the red bits in the bottom and the red on top. Not quite sure what my thinking was, but I liked how it turned out, so I'm happy with my not thinking. Any thin spots that occur, you can just add another little clump of hair, or you can glue the hair to where you want it to go, like that, to block off any different bald spots that there may be. Nothing shouts summer more than a straw hat, so let's decorate one of these little straw hats that I got from a craft shop with some ribbon and paper flowers. I've got some lace ribbon that I'm just going to trim, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't fray, and I'm sticking it on with hot glue, and I'm using a toothpick to ruche it up and keep it in a nice ruched position. And we'll finish that off with some fray check as well to make sure the other end doesn't fray. I found these little nail art butterflies on Temu or Wish or something similar, and I thought they'd be a nice little extra for the hat on her antler. These little gold findings I thought would make really cute little earrings, so I've just got some craft wire and made a loop. I'm going to stick it in the pre-existing piercing holes from when the original doll had her ears pierced. add the finishing touches to her face, I'm just going to get some resin and dot on some resin onto her eyes to give her a little bit of a domed look. And it gives her eyes a bit of a natural shine as well, so when the light shines on it, you get a nice directional highlight. I'm also going to resin in these earrings as well, because I don't particularly want them to fall out or get caught and pulled out. With that all done, we can put her together. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my collaborators, and stay put, because at the end you get to see what doll I got from my partner. This doll's being sent to Bumblecrafty, and my doll was from Extra Creations. Just going to secure that with a pin, and then we can see her photo shoot. See you in again. Ooh, I love a package. It's very exciting. I love the wrapping. It looks like a little spaceman. It's a little card and explains who the doll is, and she is called Capella. Capella is a sweet little demon in a little Lolita dress, and she has got the most gorgeous hair and the tiniest goatee, which is so cute. Quite impressed with the fact that we've managed to somehow click on the whole goat girl horns strange fawny creature like I have sent to Bumblecrafty, but yeah, that was cool. Rainstorm's dolls have the most gorgeous eyes, and I really, really love them. There's a little thing off her necklace fell off, but I'm going to glue that back on. There it is. But yeah, I love the details in her face. The hair's gorgeous, the little braids, and all the little bits and pieces. She's got little bloomers on. She's absolutely fantastic. I've got some little photos to show you, but I really do encourage you to go and watch everybody else's videos, especially go and have a look at how this gorgeous one's been made. Thank you so much again, Nox, for my lovely doll, and I'll see you all in the next one.